it's a professional service. So if you were to seek any sort of plans or even advice from an architect, an engineer, an attorney, a doctor, or whatever it may be, you're going to be expecting and you're going to pay for that advice or that design or that drawing or that feedback. So why is it any different for, the contractor industry?
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand Hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out Hardscaper.com. You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from Techo Block, and today we're joined by Justin Tal from Creative Design Maintenance from New Jersey. Very excited to have him here because he has just built such an incredible business. You were a guest on our show, and it was last year, and we talked about 2 years ago, your journey about starting very young, basically as a teenager and building the business up. And one of the things that we touched on a lot was how you've built out a sales process and how that's incredibly important. And with the way that the market is going, whether you believe that things are going to be good or whether you believe that things are going to be bad, both of those still play into what we want to talk about today is basically how have you built out a system and what is filling your pipeline with quality leads? So basically what's filling the funnel, and then the funnel feeds down into the pipeline. And at the bottom of the pipeline, if things go well, you have dollars and hopefully profitable dollars. So what's filling the pipeline? How do you manage the sales process? Not what the sales cycle is. What is your sales process, which is something you've spoken to me a lot about. And mixed within that, you have a few different tricks that you use, and one of those being financing, which is something that Pete has talked a lot about at Hardscaper Showcase this year. So why don't we start with that? What is filling the funnel for you?
So, one of the most important things is qualifying your leads. And that's something that is heard over and over again in the industry. You post beautiful projects, Instagram, website, whatever it may be, X, any sort of form of social media, you're going to obviously get some interest and some calls and requests for estimates, requests for designs. One of the most important thing is qualifying your leads, because otherwise you'll spend a lot of time with discussions and proposals and designs on things that won't actually move forward. So we've pretty much moved entirely to charged consultations. With that, ahead of time, we'll discuss budget, we'll discuss wish list, we'll discuss timeline, because those are all pretty important factors. If your timeline's unrealistic, if your budget's unrealistic for what you're, looking to get with the quality that we're going to provide, both in installation and material and service and follow-up, then, we're not on the right track. So one of our starting points is basically, in our office, our administrative staff and managers qualifying our lead. We give out some preliminary price ranges right off the back. You want a liner pool, you want a gunite pool, you want a driveway, a patio. We have ranges that are listed for each of those. And we say, okay, so you've contacted us today. You're 5 miles from our home base. You're within our work area. You're interested in X, Y, and Z. Here's a few ranges of what to expect the cost to be for that installed project. Does that align with your budget? And the response will either be, yeah, I'm still interested, or let me get back to you. And let me get back to you may or may not ever come back to you. But now you've very simply, without driving anywhere, without myself or my sales team needing to actually speak to anyone, just at a very preliminary level, you've qualified your lead to some extent.
Okay.
Do you have any questions on that?
Yes, I do. I want to come back to that though, because I want to back up one step. Because you talked about posting things to social media, and obviously that's an easy thing to do, but that can't be the only thing that's feeding your business right now.
So we're doing a lot of social media. So Instagram posts on a weekly, daily base, boosted Instagram posts, Facebook posts, website, search engine, whether it be both organic and inorganic optimization. Those are our main sources. And of course, word of mouth is always great and, having your reputation, but a lot of it does come today for any industry from online presence. People are just scrolling on their phone for more hours of the day than they're speaking to anyone per face to face. So uh, the great thing about it's very easy to reach a large audience. The downside of it is it's very easy to reach an audience that may not be
Not qualified.
correct.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to have a beautiful backyard. Everyone wants to have a beautiful house. Everyone wants to have a beautiful car.
Yeah. Not everyone has the money for it.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking numbers? We could either talk dollars or we could talk percentages, but I'm curious to know a little bit of the breakdown of how a budget is spent to tackle those things, the boosting of social media versus SEO.
Because I think it's really going to be relevant to your sales volume, which is obviously all over the place in a general contracting industry.
Okay. So first, your marketing budget as a percentage of total revenue, what does that look like in a typical year?
Could be upwards of 10%.
Yeah, that's pretty aggressive. Why do you go so high? Or maybe for you, you don't feel that's high.
Keeps us busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does keep us busy. So, I mean, I'd say it's anywhere from 7 to 10%.
Okay. Has that always been the case, or is that something that you saw was giving you the results, so you've increased that budget over time, and maybe you started with a smaller percentage?
I mean, we of course did start with a smaller percentage, but um, it's what gets the work. So,
Mhm.
whether it be through your search engine paid, boosted advertisements, I'm talking all in,
Yeah, the whole mix. Yeah,
yeah.
the whole mix. And your business, you have the construction side, you also still have some maintenance, correct? Or did you drop the maintenance now? You still have some.
80% to 85% construction and 15 to 20% maintenance.
Okay. And your marketing spend is directed at both prorated, or is it really mostly the
Maintenance, we do zero maintenance
okay. You're not trying to get new maintenance business, you're just holding that
maintenance business from our installation.
from the builds.
Like,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
we do design, build, maintain because we like to, keep our projects looking the way they did when we finished them. But we're not actively seeking, to grow the maintenance the way we do the hardscape and, outdoor living.
Okay, so it's kind of a cross-selling application there. I've designed it, I've built it. If you want it to look immaculate forever, we're the people to do it. Perfect. Okay, so between social media, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, uh, what is the split? And is there any traditional in there? Is there any direct mail or magazine ads or radio ads or billboard ads?
Direct mailing advertisements. So,
Okay.
it's about 60% website and the remaining 40% is kind of split, again, very watered down. 10% mailings, 10% Facebook, 10% Instagram, 10%, miscellaneous, but majority is website based. And again, because what do you do when you go to look for anything? You go to Google or whatever your preferred search engine is. So that's where a big focus is.
Okay, so when you say website, you're including search in there. It's you're driving people to the website. They're looking. That's more bottom of funnel.
Correct.
So in marketing terms, like if we're imagining a funnel, top of funnel is things like social media because you're just blasting it out there and everyone sees it. Bottom of funnel is it's more directed, it's more intentional. They are searching for something specifically. We're putting most of your money there.
On top of selecting specific locations.
Okay. Targeting the geographies. Okay.
Need to target the geography of a city where we're going to be doing very minimal projects. We're going to target the areas where we desire to install the projects. And I think that's another big thing that a lot of people overlook with social media, whether you manage it on your own or you have, professional hired media companies. Just because you're blasting out X amount of, advertising in costs and views, it doesn't mean it's being shown where it should be, presented.
Right. In a city, you have condos and apartment buildings like you have big estates. They're all part of the same city. So how do you go about determining those areas?
We have down to specific townships and municipalities within, our desired work range that we advertise to, down
Okay.
to by the name, by the zip code.
Do you ever review that, or is that based on like you live there, you've worked there? Okay.
We absolutely regularly review that.
And what does that review look like?
Pretty much running through an Excel of, all of our listed towns that we regularly advertise to, and then, the idea of some expansion to other locations, which is reviewed every 3 months, roughly, where we see some new development coming in and construction, and maybe, a large builder is in town and putting up 2, 3 communities. So we focus on, where we want to work and where we see the opportunity, and not just, oh, hey, I made a really cool post and I'm boosting it, and, 20,000 people saw it. But did 20,
You are these people.
yeah,
Yeah.
the other on the West Coast, is it doing anything for you?
Right. So that spreadsheet, I find that really, really interesting. That spreadsheet, does that kind of look like, whatever, pick a city or a township. You have that as a line on your spreadsheet. You have the amount of money you invest, yeah, population, the amount of money you invested, how many conversions or website hits or form submittals or whatever your CTA that you're measuring is. CTA being call to action, and then how many sales we're making and the value of those sales.
Yeah, projects per year in that location. So
Okay.
we're putting, if we keep advertising to one town and we're not
You're
getting,
never closing. Yeah.
yeah, then get out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Now, so let's go back up to the qualifying. Well, I guess further down the funnel to the qualifying. What's the thing you mentioned earlier? You said now you're pretty much exclusively charging for designs. The last time we spoke, you were thinking about it.
Correct.
So what changed? Because the market kind of slowed down from the last time we spoke, but you got even firmer with your stance on like, I'm not going to go out to see you for nothing.
Yeah, well, the market may have gone down. Maybe it's going up right now. I mean, it's volatile regardless. And,
Mhm.
we're seasonal. So you could go March, April, May and think, it's never going to end. And then come June, July, and it's quiet. So we've been having, expansion in the request of design work. We do now offer design work virtually throughout the United States. Primarily, our inquiries are on the East Coast because that's what our style
That's what you're targeting.
do, and that's where we're targeting. And, mainly New Jersey because we're New Jersey based, and maybe people north, south, wherever it is in the state, know our work or have seen our work, heard of us. But we are not offering any design work whatsoever at no charge. If you would like a design, it's a meeting that's held with myself and our lead designer. There is a charge for it. In some instances, it may credit to your installation, which is an opportunity for contractors who are afraid to charge for designs, because I'd say probably most contractors are probably still giving out, whether it be a hand sketch, a computer rendering, whatever it is, for free in hopes that it's going to land in the project, which is what our mindset was years ago, which did land us a lot of projects, but it also gave out a lot of projects that were given to a maybe
Someone else to build. Yeah.
was saying no, but the homeowner's happy. They got your idea, your design, someone
Mhm.
else did it, and you wasted your time at the end of the day and got nothing out of it. So
So what led to the shift for you? What made you say like, okay, we're doing this. I'm not turning back.
we're not turning back, and we understand we do technically sell our design. So if that design gets handed off for someone else to build, we're okay with that because we sold you the design.
Right. If I'm not willing to pay for design, how serious am I?
Yes, correct. And, it's a professional service. So if you were to seek any sort of plans or even advice from an architect, an engineer, an attorney, a doctor, or whatever it may be, you're going to be expecting and you're going to pay for that advice or that design or that drawing or that feedback. So why is it any different for, the contractor industry?
It's not. That's the bottom line. It's not. Yeah, exactly. So what's a design fee look like? Like what's the entry level of you're not getting out of bed for less than what?
1895 start.
1895. Okay.
And that could range up to over 6,000 and it could be, average somewhere in the middle there.
Okay.
And that's, 2D design, 3D design, 3D video walkthrough. We pretty much use exclusively Lumion at this point, along with a couple other softwares. So that is considered, one of the leading edge design rendering softwares. It's so, as realistic as you'll get. Not saying there aren't other options that are maybe better, maybe preferred. But we did start out with real-time landscaping, which I think almost anyone and everyone is on. And
Yeah.
it started to just get boring.
It was limiting what you could present to the customer, I guess.
Exactly. So
So
we've provide a top quality design, top quality software. And, with that's a whole nother set of overhead, computers and printers and management and, actually a team that, assembles all of that. But that gives you a good lead. It gives you a next level project because now you're really getting into the details, patterns and layout and spatial understanding and flow and so on. And you're qualifying your clients. So, most contractors in the industry, in the hardscape industry, are going to look to do a design for the purposes of building. And you're going to qualify your lead if you are not giving that design out for free. They've already seen your work. They like it. They want to use you. They'll move forward with, the design.
so that design team, I mean, you just said like coffee. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure you have a coffee machine too, but the computers, the design team, the admin staff, the softwares, you put all those things together, that can't be a small amount annually. Is that something that, um, like you mentioned, it's in your overhead, you need to recover it, obviously, but what percentage of your total staffing, let's say, let's look at it from that way, like your total team is comprised of how many people? And then of those total people, how many people are focused on design and how many people are focused on admin?
Well, I mean, our office staff is upwards of 10 people approximately right now,
Okay.
with 4 of them being in the design team.
And how many teams in the field?
We have over 35 employees in the field.
So it's almost a quarter of your staffing is in the office.
Correct.
How long was that been the case?
It keeps growing as we want to keep up with our customer service and our projects are becoming, more and more entailed with permit submissions and engineering reviews and HOA requests and everything required with the actual assembly of a successful project. It continues to grow.
Love it. Okay, so let's dive a little more into that sales process. So I'm a prospect. I saw you on social media. I like your stuff. I was hemming and hawing, and now I'm motivated to do it. So I go on Google or I go on whatever search engine. I look up local landscape contractors, design build, backyard transformation, whatever I'm looking for in a given area. I land on you. I click on your link. It takes me to your website. Your website is constantly being reworked and curated to be the best converting website possible. I now reach out and the qualification is as you described. I talk to an admin who is basically asking me a series of questions and setting my expectations with reality, saying, listen, it's going to be based on what you're talking about. We're talking about at least this much. Is that okay? Are you willing to proceed? I say yes. Then from there, okay, well, we need to start talking about design. A design fee starts at $18.95, going up to sometimes $6,000, depending on the complexity of the project.
And
Different
the property.
the si- all different things. Yeah. So that's the range. Are we okay to proceed from there? I say yes, I am. Now, what are the steps? Okay, so
Now we're going to actually set up a consultation where, for the most part, it's in person. Um, Lead salesperson, lead designer will go out, meet the client. I usually do try to join most of those meetings because we only do X amount of projects a year that are high end. So I like to be involved in that. So we'll at least have, the preliminary meeting together. And at that meeting, we're going to pretty much start with the wish list. Let's walk the front yard. Let's walk the backyard. Let's go inside and get a feel of this person's taste and style, because you can't just judge everything by the shingles on the roof and the siding and brick on the house. You have to see, how are they living inside and how is that going to flow to outside. So we'll have that meeting on site, preferably. Sometimes it is virtual if it's an out of, area um, consultation, but it's the same process. We want to get a feel for the space, go through what the client desires. We have a whole checklist of every option I could give you. So we're going to run through walkways, patios, hardscape lights, sitting walls, pillars, pillar lights, floor lights, step lights, wall lights, outdoor structures. Are the outdoor structures, pergola? Is it a pavilion? Is it a tongue roof ceiling with recessed lights? Are we doing outdoor heaters? Are we putting a bathroom outside? Are we putting a sauna, a pool, whatever it may be? We go through, a full list of everything we can offer and check off, is that desired? Is it not? And this way you're going to give ideas to the client as well. They may not have thought about, well, I could fit an outdoor shower in that corner of the yard, or I want heaters in my pavilion, or, let's landscape that patio. Let's not just have pavers out in the open. So we'll run through a full list of, options that we can offer. And, you go to a meeting, some clients will know exactly what they want, and some clients will have no idea and just know they want a paver driveway and a beautiful backyard. And that's why we go through all those options. So we'll go through all of that. And then from there, we'll start a preliminary design. We'll get it all laid out. We'll usually give some feel of budget for each of the items ahead of actually designing it, just so that at that point they can say, you know what, this is nice to have, but it's not something that's going to fit into the project. At which point we'll say, well, do you want to have it shown so that you can consider it for a later phase, or do you want it completely omitted? And, we'll go back and forth a little bit, and then we'll basically get a preliminary design roughed out, send it over for feedback. Generally, that will be a remote Zoom review. We don't need to, drive somewhere to just do a quick recap of, what we've laid out, get feedback from the client. And then at that point, make revisions, do a final design, and then move to proposing. And at that point, that's where everything gets formally quoted, and the client will decide on what extent of the project they're going forward with. And then we start moving into signing a contract, getting a timeline, deposits, selecting materials. I think it's very important to see materials in person. We're fortunate that, in central New Jersey here, we have Pantano Nursery with a huge selection of hardscape, Techo block show display inside,
Outside, yeah.
any time of year. We're able to go there, rain, sun, snow, or whatever it may be. Um, and I think it's very important to bring the client to actually see the materials in person. One, because it'll let them see the true colors, and two, they get ideas when they start seeing, Industria and Westmont on a 45-degree diagonal pattern, herringbones, borealis, things that maybe we didn't present to them, let them see that at the display. And then it's that much more interest that comes into the project. And, during that whole timeline, so we've contracted, we've selected materials, we're ordering materials, we're submitting engineering and township permits, which is pretty much one of the longest and one of the most difficult processes, which is more and more difficult by the day on the East Coast. And, then we're basically waiting for the project timeline to install.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to take like the negative stance just to put myself in the shoes of some of the listeners and some of the people that I know. So you go to meet them, right? You go to meet them. That preliminary admin qualification call basically said, okay, we're talking probably about, let's say, $100 to $150,000 project. You go out there.
We
Yeah,
won't
go ahead.
give them a total. All we'll do is give estimated ranges for each item they want.
Okay, so tell me what that looks like then.
So, for instance, a pool is going to start 70 to 90,000. A patio around the pool is going to start 40 to 60,000. Landscaping. So we give ranges based on, what our scale of projects are.
Okay.
And they're not always correct because you could
Well, it depends.
like
Site specific.
property, you could
Yeah.
much larger property, but at least we're giving you some feel of where we're at. We're not $7.50 a square foot for a Eva paver installed.
Right. So I guess my question is like those ranges, because like when you ran me through the checklist, you on site, you're walking around, you're like, okay, well, let's talk about lighting for a second. Have you considered lighting? Well, not really. Okay. Well, I mean, it's a room outside. So you have lights in your house, you have lights on your car, you have lights in your car, you have lights in the basement, you have lights even in the room with the big bay window and the skylight, you still have lights. So we need to talk about lights. Do your ranges account for all of those things that you talk about? Lights, water features, fire features. We could do this type of planting. We could do that type of planting. Does the range account for that, or does it happen a lot that as you're walking, as you're walking them through the property, saying like going down that checklist, the preliminary budget that was anticipated or just put out there as like this is a starting point, it's blown out of the water? And how often does that happen? And how often, when it does happen, that they still proceed because their budget was really not the real number anyway?
Well, generally, we could still get you somewhere to that preliminary range, but perhaps you wanted more than that. But I'm not, going to fail you on getting you some form of lighting. The sky's the limit with any project. So, can we, without intensely discussing the project prior, give you exact ranges? No, maybe I can't even get into the backyard because of access and I need to wheelbarrow everything. There's always so many factors you can know in advance. But in general, if I tell you it's going to be 4,000 to 6,000 for landscape lighting for the front of the home, which includes some hardscape lighting perhaps, I should be able to get you lighting in that range. Now, if
Yeah.
you tell me start doing soffit lighting and things, of other nature, then yeah, no, it wasn't in that range. But we've at least got some starting point. I think you at least need to get some starting point with any project and any proposal, because you need to just see that you're in the same field to begin with.
Mhm.
And
I
I
guess-
simplify things and come cool
Sure.
to a lower budget. We can expand on things. We don't turn down work. We just need to be realistic. And unfortunately, a lot of what you see online are catching the eyes are multi-million dollar projects. They're not a 20, 30, $40,000 backyard. They're a
Mhm.
300, $500 million backyard. So that's where we want to kind of just make sure that, transparently we are you know in the same field. And I do believe as time is going on that our clients seem to be more and more educated on what things are starting to cost based on other renovations they may have completed, like a bathroom renovation or a kitchen renovation. There's some understanding that unfortunately everything is expensive today, so it just does help if you're asking for a pavilion and you want heaters and you want recessed lights and you want a chandelier and then you want a bar and a kitchen underneath it. You understand that that's a luxury item.
It's not a $10,000 upgrade. So I guess what I'm trying to get at with my question is that process or that discipline of running through all the options once you're doing that consult.
We always
How much?
narrow it down.
How much does it?
Down.
For sure. Like everyone wants everything until they see the price.
Yeah.
But like how much additional revenue? I guess that's really what I'm trying to get to. How much additional revenue does that typically generate? Because I feel, and I could be mistaken, and I'm sure people will light me up on Instagram if I'm out to lunch here. But if I am the contractor and the customer is talking about probably $100,000 to $150,000 budget, for whatever reason, this is the number they have in their head.
Yeah.
It's a good budget.
Budget.
I show up at the house, I start running through all of these things that I know if they pick even 20 things on this list of 100, it's not 150,000 anymore. It's going to be 200.
Okay.
I know that's the case, but how often do they go for it, which justifies me going through it because it's generating that additional revenue for my customer, for my company, and it's giving the customer additional value that no one else is talking to them about. I guess that's kind of the question. How differentiating is that process in your eyes, and how much additional revenue is it generating?
I mean, it could probably generate 10 to 20% more revenue. And while that's a great reason to do it, it's really not the sole reason that we do it. The sole reason we give all those options is because we truly want the full experience of outdoor living. So whereas when I started, and even back several years ago, the farthest we took our amenity options were, a sitting wall with lights, or a fire pit. It was nothing, building a freestanding barbecue into an alcove. So we're not only doing it and offering it to increase the revenue, it's just what we are trying to actually, accomplish with the outdoor living. But I would think you'd increase your revenue and sales by 10 to 20%, because there's so many times that you meet someone and they, even if they met other contractors, they didn't have the idea of adding, a fire pit that you could come out to every night in the summer. And they didn't think about adding like a kitchen island rather than just a barbecue, have a little bit of prep space. It doesn't have to be all out. Um, I will say that we always have to remove some of the ideas that we give, because, sometimes it just brings the budget to over the top.
Mhm.
General, it's not like, I offered 20 items and I only want two of them, if that makes sense. If that helps.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's
So,
kind
so your goal of having a hyper extensive amenity list, as you put it, is to give them the best outdoor living experience imaginable within their budget, obviously.
ability. Yeah.
Yeah. So possible instead of imaginable, the best experience possible. And the byproduct of doing that is that you see the revenues increase probably 10 to 20% versus if you did not go through that process.
That's
And having that list include everything that you can imagine and that you know you're capable of offering opens their eyes to other possibilities that other people, other competitors that you face may not be offering. So it's making you stand apart.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's making us stand apart because other competitors are not even thinking about it or offering it. So
Mhm.
we're not offering it to increase our revenue. It's just something that happens to go along with
Yeah.
it. We're offering it so that our projects stand apart, so that you want to call us, because when you're out by your, pool or on your patio, you have all these amenities that are keeping you home for the weekend and not driving somewhere else.
Mhm. Yeah, I like it because it aligns with something my dad always says, which is like, if you focus on doing the right things for your customer, the money will follow. But just focus on doing the best job you can to help that customer. And if you do, everything else falls into place.
And that's pretty much what we, align with. That's very well said.
That's good. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit, and or maybe just like draw another line parallel to this funnel and pipe that we've been discussing. You've talked about the importance of financing and how you use it a lot. What role does it play from start to finish? How do you use it, and why is it so important to you?
Is it okay if I mention the names of specific finance banks, or do you prefer it to be vague?
No, I mean, we're here to help people. In the spirit of doing what's right for our customers, like, let's just hit the real things. We have a program, yes. It's with Regions, yes.
Yeah.
Is it all encompassing that does everything that everyone needs for every project? No. So let's just be real here.
So this pretty much goes right hand in hand with what we just discussed. So by offering, more amenities than maybe the client is initially thinking about, and of course it's going to cost more than maybe was initially either desired or budgeted, or even thought of. Um, we always end every, you know consultation with, we offer finance. So, if you go to buy a car, you go to buy a truck, you go to buy a piece of equipment. Most of us are not purchasing that item without finance. Car dealerships will tell you they would not be in business without finance. And it's turned to a very similar setup for us. I had met Enerbank back at one of the Techo Block showcases. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I'll be honest, I never thought about finance. I never thought about offering it. It's definitely growing in the industry in general. I mean, if you want to, change your hot water heater, you'll be offered finance, something as small as that. But by offering finance, so now all of those amenities that maybe were not budgeted for or thought of, or maybe are bringing things out of budget. Now, if you offer finance, you may be able to have those portions of the project incorporated. So let's just say someone had a $50,000 budget and you added a fire pit in a kitchen and now it's 70,000 for the project or whatever it may be. You can make up the difference of what that client either has available to them, whether it's cash on hand, finance, whatever it is, by offering finance. So we do work with 3 finance companies. I found each of them to appeal to, a different sector depending on the longevity of a loan and the amount of the loan and so on. Enerbank, we were one of the first, I think we were the first contractor to sign up with Enerbank, immediately seeing them and your partnership at the Techo Block showcase. And I mean, we've done over $600,000 of finance dollars through them just last year, just for instance. So, which is a pretty sizable amount. We do offer 0%, same as cash, to any project, any client. And that's between a $3,500 to $100,000 range of the loan. So the client can select any amount within that range. They have same as cash for 1 year. You, the contractor, pay, the percentage to be able to offer that. It's a cost of business. And you've probably sold, X amount more dollars in project and projects overall. And then you have, term loans, which have interest and have longer terms and larger amounts. So, we work with Enerbank very regularly. We have accounts set up with HFS, Lion. They offer, more longer term, larger options. And I think it's something that you can't do without at this point. We offer it. Does everyone take it? Absolutely not. Home equity line of credit is a popular option on larger projects. But for someone who maybe, had a budget of such and such in mind, and you went above and beyond it for whatever reason, whether the project's going to cost more than they anticipated, or there's amenities that we've decided to add it, now you're offering finance and you're able to actually please the client, get, those items done, and you're able to increase your revenue.
And what about
Do without it.
And what about the sale price of the project? So how do you present that? Do you present it like this is the financed price, or this is what you would pay monthly, this is the total finance price, or if you want to pay cash, this is what it is?
I mean, I do not. I know that
Okay.
a lot of contractors in this industry, from being at, roundtable discussions at Techo Block and so on, all have the hesitation of, well, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars to offer the finance and so on, and I don't want to incur that cost. It's a cost of business. Build it in however you'd like. If you wish to offer a discounted price for, a check or something else by not using the finance, I'm not going to, say that that's the right or wrong way to go about it. I'm going to say that's going to make things somewhat complicated. It's just a cost of business, if you ask me.
So when you present the job, this is the price. You can pay me by cash, by check, by credit card, or use the financing.
Yeah, and if you wish to use the finance, we have the options. If you don't, then you don't.
Okay. How many sales end up using credit card? Just curious.
Practically none.
Practically none. Okay.
I mean, we do charge the surcharge, which has kind of become pretty industry
Standard. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't balance. Everyone you see is credit card to get the points, but
Yeah.
now you're gonna know worth much. Right? 4% are not worth that much. Exactly.
That's right. So that's further down, like as you're closing the sale or concluding the sale. How is it used in your business elsewhere? Do you use it in your social media? Do you use it in your direct mail? Do you use it on your website? Do you use it in email blasts? Do you use it elsewhere or talk about it elsewhere?
And we have it on our website. We have the links to, apply now, making it very easy for anyone who wants to just go on and even just do a no obligation, application. But yeah, our website does have our finance page. We have all our finance options listed with links to apply. We do share periodically, in our Instagram, on our posts, in our stories that we offer finance. And, it's something you don't really think of until you realize how big the project is, or, what the actual cost of the project will be. And at that point, maybe it is appealing to add the option of finance. And, if you're a contractor getting into it, you could start it out small scale and try it. You could always take it away. No one says that you're going to be married to it. So it is something that you could consider trying and see what the success rate is and see how you offset the cost of it.
Do
It's
you
finance options that don't have any cost associated with it. So, those are things to explore. It only is a cost to the client.
Yeah, exactly. There are options, but do you find that when you're pre-qualifying the customers that they have determined a method of payment, like they've already figured out, like, okay, this is how we're going to pay for this thing, or is it something that you kind of have to
You
navigate with them?
Yeah, usually mixed, depending on if they have a real feel of the scope of work and the size of the project. And I mean, I don't need to tell you how often we start with a baseline, and then once the visual is shown, let's add this, or wouldn't it be nice if we decide to put a freestanding hot tub or whatever it may be. So, most qualified clients will have some idea how they intend to pay for the project. Otherwise, you're kind of just shooting at the sky if you're talking any number of more than a few $1,000s. But it's when, things start to add up in cost, or some options that you didn't previously consider come into the project. And that's where, the finance becomes attractive.
And do you see that um, they change their source of payment as it goes? Like they plan to do like a HELOC, or they had a personal line of credit, or they were going to sell off some stocks or shares in something, and that's where their cash would come from. And then as you're going through the design process, they're like, well, it's going to be a little bit more. So let's talk about your options.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I've never had anyone get turned off by the option of the finance, especially when we say 0% for a year. So, I mean, I've had, instances where the client had the money on hand and was prepared. And because the offering was presented, they decided to take on the 0% option, same as cash, for a 1 year, and then also increase the size of the project. So I can't tell you I've seen any negative come out of offering finance, other than there's a cost of business with it.
And why do you think that they? Sorry, go ahead.
The way it creates the opportunity for more to be done on the project.
Why do you think that in that example where they had the funds, everything, but they still decide to go 0% same as cash for a year? What do you think the motivation was?
Who wouldn't take free money?
There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
And realistically, it's just going to end up with your, installation. Maybe now you're doing a front walkway or a driveway in addition to the backyard patio, and vice versa. So,
Mhm.
it only allows for expansion. And again, the very mundane example is if you're going to buy a car, if you're financing a car versus you're buying a car cash, you're
Mhm.
probably going to be buying two different cars.
Right. That's it. And the car example is a great one because we've all purchased a car or a truck before. So
And continue to do so.
that's it. So we talked about what's feeding the business in terms of leads. We talked about how you filter through those leads. We talked about the process that you take those leads through to make them actual customers, and the role that financing plays along the way. Um, is there anything else that you think is worth covering on this topic that you kind of came across, or is kind of I don't want to say a secret, but kind of like a secret weapon that you've developed that is very simple for anyone to integrate if they just knew about it?
I mean, I would say customer service is number one.
Okay. What does that mean to you?
That means that it's not just about the installation, it's not just about the finished project, it's about also everything else that goes into actually making that happen. So, if the client has a question, is their question being responded to in a reasonable time? Someone selected shale gray and now they're thinking about gray nickel, and they send you a inquiry, hey, I'm having a second thought about the color. Are you responding the same day? Are you responding a week later? Or are you not responding at all until the project comes up or the client calls you? um, you know there's endless things that do come up during the project because the complexity of outdoor living has already reached the complexity of new construction of a home, for instance, or a building. So it's all about how you're, managing the experience from a customer relation and a customer support standpoint. Everyone can give you a nightmare contractor story about, getting ghosted, or, the contractor comes and goes as they please. And, we're all about the experience.
And that's, I guess, where that admin staff comes in,
A hundred
right? The
percent.
inquiries come in, like they're answering the email, they're answering the text right away, and that's what's giving that customer the confidence to continue proceeding with you.
100%. And I mean, we've taken it so far, and this is probably about as far as I'll give out. I mean, we do give customer reports every single day that a crew is on a job site. So at the end of every day, you get a full log of everything that took place on site that day, whether it's something as simple as, hey, your trench inspection passed, or, we had a delivery of materials. But when the crew is on site, you do get a full report every day. And we've moved to the point of iPads on all our sites and company camera being used, and, pictures throughout the day and progress reports at the end of every day that we're on site. And that goes a long way. I mean, that gives you homework at the end of the day, whether it be for you, the owner, or your foreman, or your crew. But, just imagine you're at work all day, you're having a patio built at your house, and you're not even home yet and you've received a progress report of what was done. I think that's really exciting if I was
Mhm.
having a project done.
Exciting and reassuring.
Yes. That, we're there for you. You could see what's being done. You can expect what's going to happen the next day. And again, that all ties into the customer relation, the customer service aspect.
So you're really thinking about the people all the time. I think that's the summary of this whole conversation. You're putting yourself in the shoes of who is consuming everything that I'm doing, whether it's the social media stuff that I'm putting out, whether it's the ads, whether it's the website, whether it is the design process, a phone call, a text, an email, or that we're actually building at your house or coming back to maintain it. You're putting yourself in their shoes. What's going to make it as easy as possible for them and what's going to give them the most value? What makes it easy is showing them what that's right. Showing them what can be, showing them how much it should cost, walking them through everything else you could do so that they make the most informed decision possible, giving them a slew of payment options to make that dream a reality, being super responsive, taking them to the showroom to show them the actual materials that they are selecting and making sure that they are getting the best choice possible and they're in love with it. Then, once the shovels hit the ground, continuously communicating with them about the progress, how it's going. And once it's all wrapped up, you have the option to come back and maintain it to make sure that they don't have to worry about this. It's going to look perfect for as long as you live in this home, which obviously increases your resale value for the day that you do sell this home.
100%.
Why wouldn't I give you my money?
I don't know. Let's do it. But that's general process. And is it perfect? No. Do we find flaws? Do we make improvements? Do we make advancements? Constantly.
Yeah, but I think that's the intangible benefit of building out A, processes as you've done and checklists, and then B, investing in the tools and technology to monitor how things are progressing with those processes. And then C, having the people in the office who are keeping an eye on that stuff because they can flag when things are not going as well as they can. And they're the ones that can bring solutions to the table. If you don't do those three things, then you're trying to do everything while selling the jobs, designing the jobs, building the jobs. It becomes impossible to compete at that elite level where you're trying to get into those high-end projects and have a healthy margin at the end. So it's kudos to you on the business you've built and being so meticulous on all of these different pieces, because that's what builds a business instead of just a construction crew that pulls in cash every week.
Correct.
So really impressive stuff, man.
I appreciate it. We're constantly evolving. There's always a new idea and there's always a new process, and we're weekly, daily, annually, we're always adding to it.
What's the
What keeps you growing?
Absolutely. What's the most exciting project you have coming up?
We do have a few, and we're mixing a lot of different, material selections. So, different size pavers and slabs, and bringing a lot of artificial turf in. One of the biggest hurdles that we have to get over right now is impervious coverage. And we have managed to work with our engineering team to, show artificial turf as impervious. So we have a lot of very unique projects that are going to be coming up in places on the East Coast where people are going to scratch their heads and say, how did they get that done? And it's because of what we had done with engineering and impervious calculations and some processes that we've been working on for a few months now to get the most patio and usable space in our client's backyard while respecting setbacks and keeping some green lawn, so to say. I don't want an all paved area. But we do have a lot of exciting projects that you guys will be seeing and tagged in and hopefully showcasing that are in progress right now. And we do have a very big project that we had done last fall that's going to be revealed this year. And, we're excited for that. Nearly a 4,000 square foot lagoon style pool with a whole extensive techo block surround. And it's going to hopefully light up the East Coast once we really unveil it.
I love it. Okay, what's the Instagram handle so people who don't already follow you can see these awesome projects that you guys design and build?
Creative Design and Maintenance LLC, or just search Creative Design NJ and you'll see a tree logo just like that.
There you go. All right, Justin, thank you so much for joining us, sharing all these insights. Very, very interesting. Love the business you've built. Keep going. And until next time, everyone, work hard, pave harder. We'll see you next week on the Hardscape Growth Show.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.